influences. Obviously, I grew up in a small Scottish island during the 70s and 80s. Two parents as teachers, no real background in the private sector, but much more around public service and public service in a community, very tight-knit community. All of these things were really without influence. Father is a church organist, so I was dragged along to the church. So you get some of these subliminal messages. It's not that I'm a particularly religious person or whatever, but you have these influences in your childhood. Probably, though, the most profound impact was, if I was in a video Skype at the moment, you would notice that I've got absolutely no hair at all, so I'm completely bald, and have been since the age of 12. So I alopecia at the age of 12, and within a 6-month period went from having a bushy head of hair to nothing at all. And it's fine when you're 44 and bald, but when you're 12 years old and bald, it's a little bit different in the school. And so what impact did that have? I guess more than I probably realised at the time as I reflect on it. It's one of these things that as a kid at 12 you really want to conform. You want to be one of the gang, you want to look like everyone else and be part of everything else. But I probably developed a high degree of comfort with not looking like everyone else, with being a bit different, with standing out. It was my choice to, but I had to. And so, as I reflect on this, and I haven't reflected on it a great deal, I do think that comfort with being a bit different from the norm has probably stemmed right back to that sort of the profound experience at 12. So that coupled with the values were coming more through the parents and the idea of community service and teachers and things, then has gone through into the business life, where I spent my 20s doing things like an MBA and progressing up the corporate ladder, but always thinking a little bit more about being very acutely aware of some of the shortcomings of today's business model and the form of capitalism that we've embraced over the last 10, 20 years. And I suppose the actual not having hair almost became a bit of an asset in the business context, in that you want to start standing out, that you want people to remember who you are, whether it's internal in the company or clients that you meet or whatever. It did also maybe allow me to be quite comfortable with actually after the catalyst for all of this was a sabbatical on a BSO project. Before I knew him, when he was the chief executive of BSO, I was out in Macedonia for a year, just after the Kosovo crisis, trying to work as a volunteer, using my business skills and my MBA and my Accenture experience, apply it in a different context and for a different impact. And it wasn't until I came back from that I was thinking all the time, how much more could I be getting done if I was with my normal team of people? Why is our business skills and business capabilities in companies like Accenture lacking in these developing countries? There's a clear need. Why are we not there? Is there a way that we could change the business model to make ourselves affordable and relevant? And that was a little bit of a wacky idea, I suppose, at the time. So again, it was a case of standing out, I suppose, and standing up and saying, maybe we should change things. Maybe we can have a business within a business that doesn't make profit, even if we're in a very for-profit organisation. The challenge was, how do we go beyond the traditional consulting, pro bono, philanthropic model of giving free services to address a particular issue in a particular country? That's fine and it works in certain contexts. It's not scalable, it's not sustainable, and it's not going to add up to the impact that's required. I guess I was the instigator of it, but I do stress that this isn't a one-man band, that there's teams around me of great people that have taken this idea forward over the years. But I guess the initial idea was to almost turn Accenture's business model on its head, to develop a a new business within a business, a not-for-loss group, I call it, as opposed to a not-for-profit group, which is seeking to be sustainably and scalably delivering business and technology expertise to organisations that work in parts of the world where we wouldn't normally go, where there's no commercial market for our services, but where there's a great need for our skills. And innovation in the business model is that there's a three-way contribution. Accenture giving us access to people, free of profit margin and overhead, in return for getting the leadership development benefits for its top performers. The individuals is the second bit of the equation. Individuals come and work in this group for 6 months and give up half their salary. So our brightest and best people, the most qualified people, are willing to work at half what the market would say they're worth. They give up half their salary. And the third bit of the equation is that the clients pay for services. The initial sell came from coming back from Macedonia, and I joke that actually, in the long winter evenings in Macedonia, thinking about how we could change the commercial model, thinking about what this business, would look like, was distilled into, I thought, rather than write lots of pages of PowerPoint or a long proposal document and send it to somebody who's unlikely to read it, just distilled it into a fake press article. So what would the Financial Times say about this event if Accenture was launching this in 12 months into the future? So that was penned in a cafe in Thessaloniki on the way home from Macedonia, sent that to the chairman, and it was 90% fiction and probably 10% fact, but it got the attention of leadership, and it talked about this non-profit, and it talked about not playing on the heartstrings, but it appealed to the business instincts of the leaders. Here is an opportunity. We might not make dollar profit, but there are hard business benefits. Every person we retain in the business that we want to keep in the business is worth something to us. The people we attract in that wouldn't have come to Accenture otherwise is a business benefit. The leadership development, being able to expose our future leaders to cross-cultural, cross-sectoral issues is actually, the leaders of the future in our firm and others will be people who are comfortable working in that environment, and here is a way of incubating and developing that talent. So these were the factors that I was selling very hard in the firm, and after the press article, I guess, catalyzed a feasibility study to see whether these benefits were tangible or real. And one of the things we did in the feasibility study was to survey several thousand of our Accenture staff, not just asking them, would you be interested in working in a group like this and applying your skills for a UNICEF as opposed to a Unilever, for example, and working on the other side of the world. We also took information on their performance ratings. And what we found was that there was a correlation between performance and interest. The people that we wanted to really retain in the firm and that were our best performers, a disproportionate number of them were particularly interested in this proposition. And that's really what hooked the leaders when we saw that evidence. I think first and foremost is that there is a mentality, certainly within the private sector, that when you want to change, when you want to feel that you want to do good, or do something on an issue you care about, that you have to either leave the company or change companies or get out or move or change sectors, if you like. And my biggest assertion, I guess, is changing or don't change companies, change the company you're in. There's an opportunity, especially when you've been working for a number of years in a company, as I had. You start to know the people, you know how it works, you know the policies, you know the products. You're probably best placed to actually affect change within your organisation. And I come from the point of view that says that these huge, the private sector and corporates within the private sector have got so colossally big. Nestle is now, Apple is probably now 20 times the size of Ethiopia, as the economy of Ethiopia. Give me 1 degree change in an Apple or a Nestle or an Anglo-American, and that is massive impact downstream. So I think that change can come bottom up rather than top down. This is the entrepreneur model. And it's not to say it's easy, it's not to say there's, an easy kind of cookbook solution on this, but I think it's possible. I think people can change organisations, almost create their own roles, almost drive that change bottom up. So that's one thing I would say. Very quickly, a couple of others are the role of the team. I mean, I've surrounded myself with people who are good at the things that I'm not good at. And being self-aware about what you are good at and what you're interested in is very, very crucial. And I surround myself with people who complement my own strengths with their strengths. And being that optimist. Leaders are optimists, I believe. I need to have also the pessimists and the realists on my team as well. But if I'm not an optimist, if I'm not trying to drive forward and set the vision that people can follow, I wouldn't expect them to follow me. I think there's two things. One is, this is not risk-free. If you want any risk-free, easy solutions, then it won't come. I had to put my career on the line to a certain extent. I had to put a substantial proportion of my salary on the line to back it up. And I think that helped. The person I went in to try and sell this to said, I'm used to people coming in and complaining that they're not paid enough and asking for a rise. And you're coming in here and asking for a pay cut. That's kind of counterintuitive. And you got my attention. And you've got these other people that want a pay cut as well. So putting having some skin in the game would be the term. Some risk, some skin in the game, some level of commitment. If you expect it to happen without any risk to your career or otherwise, it won't happen. I think the corollary of that is that it will depend a bit on the company. Accenture is quite an entrepreneurial company. I think the leaders are supportive. Not all, but many are. And so there may well be corporate cultures that are not conducive to incubating innovation, to nurturing that innovation. There is the corporate immune system. The antibodies of the corporate will come out. And maybe subconsciously, it's not, but the policies that are made and the procedures that allow great big companies to become great, big and profitable and powerful have antibodies that will try and kill off something that doesn't look like that, that's non-profit, that's small, that's maybe taking a different direction. So I think the onus is not just on the individual, the onus is also on business leaders to to allow these things to flourish internally. And not every company will have that, will be conducive to that. The only thing I would say is that this is a journey. It's not that I've arrived in some way, flattering as it is, that it's like climbing the mountain. You reach these different, you think you've reached the summit, but you actually realise you're just at the top of a foothill, and realise that as we take steps forward, the opportunity and the scope for greater impact is just increasing all the time. It's just a case of you take a step forward. And actually, it was Bob Geldof, Sir Bob Geldof. I don't know whether he's a familiar name in the States.
Oh yes,
household name in the UK. Started Live Aid and all that whole movement. I saw him speak at a conference at one point, and he carries around this quote in his pocket. That goes something along the lines of, when you truly commit yourself, providence moves too. And I'm not quoting, I'm misquoting this somewhat, but this idea of providence, he set off a positive chain reaction by one day just seeing an issue, thinking he could do something about it, taking a step forward. He didn't know where it was going to go. He had no idea what was going to happen after that. It just kicked off a positive chain reaction, and things started to fall into place. Calls. One week he was a fairly pale rock singer and nobody taking his call. The next week he's getting phone calls from X, Y, and Z, all because he just took one step forward. So you don't have to know, what the next third, fourth, fifth, 10th step forward is. It's just taking that initial step, I think, and then the kind of providence will kick in.